And I guess, Riley, if you don't mind getting started, introduce yourself to us, state your name, and then give us your testimony.
Of course. Thank you, Chairwoman Paxton and distinguished members of the Senate Committee on State Affairs. My name is Riley Gaines, and I am a spokeswoman for the Independent Woman's Voice, and I urge you to pass Senate Bill 15. I recently graduated from the University of Kentucky, where I was a student and a member of University of Kentucky's women's swim and dive team. I proudly finished my career as a 12-time NCAA All-American, a 5-time SEC champion, an SEC record in the 200 butterfly, making me one of the fastest Americans of all time, and a 2-time Olympic trail qualifier. But all of that to say that being successful at an elite level is far from easy, and it's a lifelong journey. It's impossible to put into words the amount of time and the dedication and the sacrifices that I've made. I started swimming when I was 4, so I've spent 18 years of my life achieving maximum performance in my sport, which is not unique to just myself when competing at the collegiate level. On March 17th of 2022, my teammates and I, as well as female swimmers from universities around the country, were forced to compete against biological male Lia Thomas. Thomas was allowed to compete in the women's division after competing at the University of Pennsylvania's men's swim team for 3 years prior. The first day of competition, we watched on the side of the pool as Thomas swam to a national title in the 500 freestyle, beating out the most impressive and accomplished female swimmers, including many U.S. Olympians and American record holders, by body lengths at that. And I think it's important to mention, like Senator Middleton said, Thomas was ranked 462nd at best the year before in the men's division. That next day, Thomas and I raced in the 200-yard freestyle, which almost impossibly enough resulted in a tie. We went the exact same time down to the 100th of a second. And so having only one trophy, the NCAA handed the trophy to Thomas and told me I had to go home empty-handed because Lia had to hold the trophy for photo purposes. I felt betrayed and belittled, and like my efforts and the sacrifices that I had made had been reduced to a photo op to validate the identity and the feelings of a male. But my feelings did not matter. But that is not all. In addition to being forced to give up our awards and our titles and our opportunities, the NCAA forced female swimmers to share a locker room with Thomas, a 6'4", 22-year-old male equipped with and exposing male genitalia in a room full of vulnerable, undressed women. Let me be clear. We were not forewarned about this arrangement. We did not give our consent, and we were not asked for our consent. And if nothing else, I truly hope you can see how this is a violation of our right to privacy and how some of us have felt uncomfortable, awkward, embarrassed, and even traumatized by this experience. Of course, Title IX was enacted to end discrimination on the basis of sex within colleges and universities, but by allowing Thomas to displace female athletes in the pool and on the podium, the NCAA intentionally and explicitly discriminated on the basis of sex. And although the NCAA claimed it acted in the name of inclusion, its policies, in fact, excluded female athletes, which of course are the very athletes Title IX was passed to protect. It's impossible to speak for every single girl on that pool deck, but I can wholeheartedly attest to the tears I saw from the 9th and 17th place finishers who missed out on being named an All-American by 1 place. And I can wholeheartedly attest to the extreme discomfort in the locker room from 18 to 22-year-old girls who were exposed to male body parts and having to undress with a male in the same room. And I can attest to the grumbles of anger and frustration from these girls who, like myself, had worked so hard and sacrificed so much to get to that moment. And on top of that, I can attest to the fact that around the country, female athletes who protested the inclusion of Lia Thomas in the women's division were threatened, intimidated, and emotionally blackmailed into silence and submission. I am 100% certain that I speak for more than just myself when I'm sharing my testimony before you guys. But unfortunately, my experience is not unique, and that is why I ask you guys to please pass Senate Bill 15 today. The number of female athletes who have been denied opportunities, traumatized, or hurt by policies that claim to promote inclusion is growing at an alarming rate. It's simply unacceptable, and the integrity of women's sports is lost. And so I appreciate the opportunity to share my experience, and I hope that you consider the facts, the science, and the growing numbers of stories. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony, for sharing your story with us today. Senator Middleton.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Riley, maybe one thing I'd like to hear more about here is what are some more examples that you've seen of retaliation or threats because you've spoken up or others have spoken up?
Absolutely. I have seen this, of course, from the athletes. I have seen retaliation against parents, and I have seen retaliation against the administration within universities and even at the NCAA. After all of this kind of happened, I had several of Leah Thomas's teammates reach out to me. They informed me of what they went through on a daily basis, including going to mandatory LGBTQ meetings to learn about the oppression that Leah Thomas faced. When they were concerned about the locker room aspect, they sent an email to their administration, and I swear I have a screenshot of their response. The administration responded with, "If you feel uncomfortable seeing male genitalia, here are some counseling resources that you should seek." And then again, we're referred to the campus LGBTQ Education Center to educate themselves. They were told that they were not allowed to take a stance because the school has taken their stance for them. They were told, you will never get into grad school, you will never get a job, you will lose your friends, you will not have the ability to continue playing on this team if you speak out. And that, again, is happening across the nation from girls in my same position, which is why there are so few of us who are willing to really use our voice. In regards to the parents, I have so many parents reach out to me who say, I support you privately, but I have a corporate job, and I'm told I can't publicly share my support. Within the administration, I actually went down to San Antonio for the NCAA convention where they announced their 2022 NCAA Woman of the Year, to which I was nominated for. But it was not exclusive to just women being nominated for Woman of the Year, because Leah Thomas was also nominated. And so actually we bought a booth inside the convention center where athletic directors were able to walk by, and every single athletic director who walked by said, hey, thank you for doing what you're doing. You know, we can't publicly support you, but keep fighting. Even the president of the NCAA himself, Mark Emmert, approached me and said, keep fighting, you know, we need you to keep going, which is ironic because he is the one we are fighting against. I had the meet occurred at Georgia Tech, and so I actually had one of the host reps of the meet at Georgia Tech reach out to me and share with me some emails that they got from the NCAA before the competition was allowed, stating that they were not allowed to share how they felt publicly, whether it was for in support or against allowing trans athletes to compete with women. So I'm seeing this on all levels, parents, athletes, and within the administration.
Thank you, Senator Middleton. Thank you. Members, are there any other questions? All right, if not, thank you for your testimony.